Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to Rico Auto Industries Limited Q4 FY21 earnings conference call hosted by Essential Technologies Private Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Saurabh Bhave from Essential Technologies. Thank you, and over to you, Mr. Bhave.
Thank you, Nirav. On behalf of Essential Technologies, I welcome you all to Rico Auto Industries Limited's Q4 and FY21 earnings conference call. From the management, we have Mr. Arvind Kapur, Chairman, CEO and Managing Director, Mr. O.P. Agarwal, Chief Advisor, Finance and Accounts, Mr. Surendra Singh, President and COO, Mr. Rakesh Sharma, Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Sandeep Rajpal, Vice President Marketing, and Mr. B.M. Jam, Company Secretary. Now may I request Mr. Arvind Kapur to take us through his opening remarks, subsequent to which we can open up the floor for the Q&A session. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I welcome you to today's conference call, and I hope everybody is safe and healthy, and your family and your near and dear ones are all safe and healthy. And please get yourself vaccinated. I think that is the only solution we have. We do not want to face another, the third wave. And what we are doing here, we have vaccinated almost 95% of our colleagues who are above 45, and 35% of our colleagues who are between 18 and 45. And I think by the end of the month, we should vaccinate almost everybody in our facilities. And then we are going to extend this vaccination to the families of our colleagues as well. And so this is just on the health front. COVID has played this time the third wave the second wave that hit us. I think we were all not very comfortable, and fortunately, the state government this time realized that the companies can keep on working, the manufacturing facilities can keep on working. But since the closure was state dependent on the people on the local political parties in the state, there were some states who did not allow manufacturing, like Karnataka. We had a problem because the Toyota plants and other plants were shut there. But most of the other plants were in operation. In Chennai, the administration had requested some of the OEMs there to prepone their annual closures and half-yearly closures so that it could overlap with the closure of the state, and that got extended for a while. So for us, what was happening was that all the OEMs did not close at the same time. So we had to keep on running our plants because some of them were open. Then the exports were open. We were shipping our consignments to Germany and the other places. So all that was happening. And in the process, there were a lot of people who did anticipate that there could be total closures, and so a lot of the migrant laborers did go back to their state, and but most of them have come back now, and so we are back into full production now. And now, of course, all the states are open, and the markets have also opened. And so we are hoping that it appears initially it appeared that the reaction in the car market as well as the two-wheeler market would be stronger than what happened last time. The demand might not be as much, but we are seeing signs of change, and we are seeing that goods are picking up. But there's a word of caution here. I think all the vehicle manufacturers are looking for increasing the prices of their vehicles, primarily because of the commodity price increases that have been taking place for the last almost 1.5 years, and other costs which have actually gone up. And so there's a possibility that there would be a price hike that would take place possibly in this July, August, September, October, in this period. And what impact will that have? And it would all depend on the amount of price increases that actually take place. But the orders seem to be good both in the domestic market as well as the export market. Export market for We are very happy and excited about the export market. Our exports last year were pretty good, and despite all the issues that were existent. And this year again, I think there will be a further growth. I think we should be crossing about 450-500 crores as far as the exports are concerned. And the domestic market, we will see a growth in the domestic market as well. And one is, of course, this year our performance, we did a turnover about consolidated. We did a turnover of about 1,500 crores, close to 1,500 crores, and as a consolidation. And this is despite the fact that this was more than last year's full-year turnover. This is despite the fact that the first quarter was a total washout. And but the orders were good and the exports were good, and so we could actually and the investments that had been made in the previous years, those actually came into production, and we could cross the turnover of last year. This year, of course, there's one extra quarter that we will be working this year, and so 25% would be that growth in any case, and but we are expecting another 20-25% growth for this year as well. So I think that this year seems to be good. So far, the exports are going to be very good, and the domestic market, we have picked up more businesses from current companies as well as some new companies we've added. And we are hoping that we should cross our dream figure that we've been talking about almost every year, and we'll cross that very easily this year. The commodity prices, I must add here that there is a lag impact. It takes us the contract with most of the OEMs is that within the OEMs, the commodity prices are passed through, but it is an average of 3 months. Every quarter they settle, and in one or two companies it is on 6-month basis that we need to settle. It is an average of that month that they normally give us a price. So we don't actually get the full price, and what happened this year was that the prices just kept on going up the whole year. They never came down at all. And so the lag impact was a lot. And there's almost, I think there's an impact of almost about 45 to 50 crores totally, out of which we've got some, and about 17-18 crores is the carry forward, which we would get back possibly this year. It's a total pass-through. The only thing is the lag is impacting us. And normally the increase in commodity price is not so high, but this year has been an exception. And the investments that we are looking at this year, this is normally our targets to keep it within the depreciation. The depreciation is around 80 crores, and but our initial investment that we need to do this year is about 55 crores. Besides that, there's a separate project which we have been given, and that's the Toyota project, and that is a very prestigious project that has come our way. And Toyota selected us amongst 3-4 bidders, in which there were also Japanese companies. And we got selected after making the samples and delivering goods in time. And that would be a separate investment that would take place. But the investment that we would do this year, there will be no impact on the turnover for this year. The impact would come only next year because they come into production next year. And on our repayments are about 65 crores this year. And we would have enough accruals to pay off these. Our turnover is also going up, and our accruals would be pretty good this year. So all the investments that we have been showing in the last couple of years, they've actually started coming into production. And you'll see a major change in the companies from this current year. And in our subsidiary, Rico Jinfy, there would be a major increase there. Also, we had created the capacities. It took us many years to get the orders. Finally, we have the orders, and whatever we did about 150 crores this year. Our target is that we'll be almost doubling it this current year in Rico Jinfy. and that's for the aluminum wheels that we supply. But you'll see all the other companies also the turnover going up this year. We've also set up a COVID center because of the issues that came up the last a month and a half when there was a shortage of oxygen and shortage of beds. So we did our Dharuheda plant, which we emptied out absolutely. The machines have been transferred to various plants, and the production is taking place in various plants. And we converted that particular building into a COVID center. We are still holding it. Hopefully, there won't be a third wave. But if at all it comes, we will be absolutely ready for the third wave. Yeah. Over. I think that's anything else. I think I'm open to the questions and answers.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The first question is from the line of Jaimin Desai from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Congratulations on pretty healthy revenue performance in the quarter. Firstly, I wanted to ask, could you describe the impact of electric or hybrid vehicles on your business segments or product profile? And over the medium to long term, would RICO be a gainer from the transition on net basis, or would the business be largely unaffected?
When we talk of electric vehicles, we normally talk of electrification. So when I say electrification, it is not only the pure battery electric vehicles, it is also the hybrid vehicles and also mainly the hybrid vehicles also are part of that. And it is taking place, and when it takes place, there would be impact on us because we are making a lot of engine components. But if you look at the growth that is taking place at the moment, in India we produce about 3.5 million cars a year, and by 2030, when we expect that the penetration of electric vehicles and electrification would start taking place, we expect that today we are making 3.5 million cars. By 2030, we should be making in the region of about 8 to 10 million cars. They say 10 million, but I'm estimating now at about 8 million because of COVID years, etc., etc. And out of which, the pure electric vehicles, the battery vehicles, those would be, what we are estimating is, they would be in the region of about 15% plus minus 5%. And that would, and if it stretches to 20-25%, that would be actually the EV, the hybrid vehicles which are actually will be there. And for pure electric vehicles to actually come into, there are two very challenging things to happen. One is that the battery prices have got to come down even lower than whatever they are today. They've got to come down to about $55 to $60. And the vehicle, we should be able to produce a vehicle at the cost of about the Maruti vehicles, which are about 5 lakh rupees, I think should be the target price for the vehicle. Then they will start mass selling. But they'll only mass sell in case we also have a facility of charging a very convenient way of charging the vehicles and of battery replacements or whatever is being done in the future. And but we find that CNG started in Delhi about 20 years back, and still you have queues in the petrol pumps to fill up, get the CNG filled up. So we don't see that this access to charging station would be that easy. Even in the US, we've had experience with some of our suppliers or some of our colleagues there, that they've had to wait for 2 hours in California, which is the hub of electric vehicles, 2 hours for charging their cars, and at stations which can charge about 20 cars at a time. So it is a problem at the moment. It is going to take a while, And by the time it actually shifts, which would be, I would say, 2040 or 2045, by 2030, the IC engine, the petrol engine that we are talking of today, the capacity built up in India would be almost double of whatever we are doing today. If we are making 3.2, 3.5 million vehicles today, by 2030 we should be making close to 8 to 9 million, out of which 15% could be electric and or electrified vehicles. The balance are going to be the IC engines. So we need to still double our capacity to meet the demand by the year 2030. And what we feel is it is around 2040, 2045 that there would be some change that would start happening there. But by then, there'd be a lot of other technologies that would also come into existence, which would include hydrogen vehicles and even the hybrid vehicles. And on the hybrid vehicles, the order we got from Toyota is for hybrid vehicles. We are the only ones who would be making those components for the hybrid vehicles. And those hybrid vehicles, those components will go both for Toyota in India and also for exports from India and also for Maruti Suzuki. As you know, the Toyota and Maruti Suzuki, they have become, Toyota has invested in Suzuki Japan. So they are supporting them as far as hybrid vehicles are concerned. So most of the vehicles will get converted into hybrid vehicles by then. So okay, I'm back in there, but it will be 20 years down the line.
Sure. Okay. So this Toyota order for hybrid, you're saying they are the sole supplier for that product?
Yeah.
And what would be the component?
There are various components. There are transmission components, and
okay.
we will be supplying those. And but let me tell you, we are already supplying for electric vehicles. Our turnover this year for the electric vehicles, that is for BMW and PSA and Renault, was about 78 crores. And this current year, it should be almost doubling, will be around 150 crores in the electric vehicles. So we are in the electric vehicle components as well, and they are growing. And but the components that we are supplying are primarily for Europe, and there's one set of components which goes to India as well. India and China, yeah.
Okay. Sir, how much would be the engine components as a percentage of our FY21 sales at the console level?
Just a minute, I'll give you.
Sure.
The engine is about 43% of the total sales.
Okay.
And for next year, it will come down slightly to 38%, even though there's a total growth that is taking place. It will come down primarily because of the electric vehicle components which are going up, and also the transmission component which are going up, the chassis and the wheels, aluminum wheels, where there is a major growth from 150 to going to 300 crores. So those are the non-engine components. So from 43 will come down to 38%, but the actual value will be more.
Right. And in the result press release, it mentions order wins of around 1,690 crores for the year. So how much of these would be on the electric or hybrid side?
There is about 500 crores would be on the electric and hybrid vehicles.
Okay. And by what year would these form a part of our revenues? How many years down the line?
See, the start would be next year, and 22, 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the peak would be, say, 4 or 5 years after that?
No. The very next year will be peak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because what I said was that these Toyota components I'm talking of, these are for the domestic market, for Maruti Suzuki and Toyota, and also for export in Southeast Asia.
Right. And in terms of domestic EV space, there is a lot of action happening, especially on the two-wheeler front. So considering that you have big presence on the two-wheeler side as well, are you in discussion with the two-wheeler electric OEMs?
Yeah, we are. See, like the wheels, etc., those we go to the supply in any case. We already negotiated with some of the major customers and the major players who are going to be coming in that. and that is one part. But if you look at the motor and the transmission that is required, we are looking at those components as well and negotiating with our customers.
Okay, fine. And last question, if I may be allowed. Sir, in terms of margins, in the medium term, say by next year, do you think we would be able to cross the double digit level at the console level for EBITDA margins?
We should. Our attempt is this year itself. This coming year, we should do it.
And this would be irrespective of the whatever happens on the material cost side, right?
See, material is a pass on. There is a lag which happens. And now, at the moment, of course, this year we'll also be getting the lag of last year, which will get carried forward. And now, if the raw material doubles from here, then of course there would be a challenge. It will only get postponed. But we are hoping that the aluminum seems to be more stable at the moment. We are mainly for aluminum. Iron doesn't impact us so much.
Right. Fine. That's it from my side, sir. Thank you.
The commodity, the raw material is a pass-through. The only thing is, now we started negotiating with the customers that rather than 3 months average or 6 months average, we've got to reduce the timeline. We've got to reduce it down to maybe 1 month or so, 1 month or 2 months. So we are negotiating that also.
Sure. Thanks, sir, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. Ladies and gentlemen, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Rashi Talwar from Ashmore Group. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you doing?
Good, Rashidi. Good. How are you?
I'm fine. Just a quick question. That capex that we ended the year with in FY21 was, much ahead of the guidance that we had. So I was just wondering how to reconcile that. And this seemed to be obviously a fourth quarter phenomena because, till then we were pretty sure on what capex would have been.
The capex that we normally consider is the machines that are direct machines or the buildings which are required, or even the utilities which are required to be done. The dies which are consumable, we normally don't include those as the investment that is going to take place because most of it is funded or advanced, is given to us by the customers. And the dies, all of them, most of them, they don't last more than, depending on the volume, they don't last more than 6 months to 1 year. And they get consumed with that. And so we do get that advantage over of completing the cost in that particular 6 months or 1 year. So when we declare that this is what capex we're going to have is primarily, but in the accounting purposes, I think this is what they do. They all the jigs and fixtures, everything is clubbed together and put it in this. And whereas the funding is done of all the jigs and fixtures and everything that has been funded by the customers, and they own it actually.
Oh, okay. So they own it. So I mean.
Well, they funded it. They obviously own. We own it, but I mean, like they've actually funded it. So I would say they fund it actually. And see the jigs and fixtures. Now, what we do is anything which is specific for a particular component, we ask the customer to pay for it. And like all the jigs and fixtures that we ready and the dies that get ready, those we ask the customers to pay for it. Because in case their vehicle does not sell, if the component is not used by them, we are not going to bear the cost. And the rest of it,
let me break it up because we had our capex for the year was 124 crores versus the guidance of about 80 to 90 crores.
Yeah, so the balance is all jigs and fixtures and the dies and etc. Yeah, mainly those. See, the dies, each die can cost us 5 crores. Like some of the Toyota dies, each die is almost 3 to 5 crores.
Right.
And we made a whole set of dies for Toyota, and now we make a second set of dies for Toyota this year.
So these set of dies that were made for Toyota are made for this new project that we won?
Yes, those are made because to win the project we had to make these dies. We had to make the dies and prove that. Of course, they funded us for it. They paid us for it. They paid us. They paid two other companies for the same component, and they were looking at the timeline and also the quality components that were supplied. And we were the ones who did it before time and gave it to them in time. And so those dies are 6 crores, 8 crores or something like that. That's one set of dies.
And how many sets did we have to make?
Abhi we made one only, but now we are going to make the second and third one. Now, since the orders come to us, we need to have 2 to 3 sets of dies depending on the volume. If it's about 10 to 11,000 pieces a month, then we keep 2 sets of dies.
Okay, but your point being that this extra, let's say 34 or 44 crores was basically for dies and fixtures.
Dies, jigs and fixtures and special gauges that we put for special components, which we can't use otherwise for any other component, any other customer.
Okay. And all of this is usually...
There's a lot of money that comes in advance from the customers.
Right.
That also shows as a commitment of theirs that on the project itself.
So that is what I'm trying to just assess, that this entire amount would have been funded by the customers before.
Yeah. And the first set, the second set, we insist that the customer should pay for, and thereafter, then once it's regular on the second day when it's full production, that's the time we start amortizing it over the production. Because then the recovery is very fast. Depending on the volume, each die lasts about 100,000 shots, 80,000 to 110,000 shots. So if the volume is more than 100,000, within 7-8 months we consume the die. Now for two-wheelers, we consume the die within 3 to 4 months.
Right.
See that we have to make samples. We have to give them 300 sets of samples, and for that now I'm not going to make a die for that and for 300 pieces, and especially 6 to 8. The total expenditure was about 8 to 10 crores. And so they were only testing us out. They're testing us and testing the other people out as to who would be the best supplier they could get. So they paid us for it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I'll come back in the queue for more questions later.
Thank you very much. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask the question. The next question is from the line of Pritesh Kumar from AXA Capital Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Hitesh. Thanks for the opportunity. Sir, any update on this Gurgaon plant where we were looking to moving out of that location?
Not at all. Nothing at all. Primarily because of COVID, I don't think there was any interest by anybody. So at the moment, I think everything is down. So at the moment, we have no update on that.
Sure. And there was some purchase of assets from Rasa Autocom during the quarter, where except the land we have purchased, the machineries and the infrastructure. So could you just help explain what was that for?
See, Rasa, we have 3 plots in Bawal. One was in the name of Rasa, one was in the name of Rico Auto, and the third was in the name of Rico Jinpai. And Rasa, because it was a plot allotted by HSIDC, there is an obligation of starting production within a certain limited time. And so we started the production there, but whatever they produced, their 100% was being supplied to Rico Auto in Bawal itself. So whatever die castings and etc., whatever they did, they supplied to Rico Auto. Now, after the terms and conditions of HSIDC were over, we internally thought that we should merge all the companies and rather than just transferring goods from one end to the other end, and with a lot of paperwork, etc., etc. And then also we have the problem of related party transactions, etc. So what we did was we bought all the production assets so that we could start, Rico itself could start producing them. So all the profits of Rico and Rasa actually get transferred to Rico Auto now. And Rasa is a 100% subsidiary of Rico Auto, by the way. And the plot we did not transfer because there was a heavy cost of the registration fees that was required to be done. And we thought we'll do it whenever it's easy because Rasa is also our own company.
Sure. Okay. And so my second question.
At the moment, the building is a rent. Rasa is a 100% Rico Auto company. At the moment, the transaction is only the rental portion, and the machines have been transferred, so there's no transaction as far as the component supplies are concerned.
Got it. And sir, on Rico Genpi, because you expect the turnover to double, I think last year we did at FY20 at least we did about 120 odd crores. What would be in FY21, and how do you see that moving along with the profitability there?
21 we did 150 crores.
150.
We did 150 crores and we expect 300 crores.
And profitability would be the same, roughly about 10-11% that we had.
Our target is to improve by another 1.5%. That's the target we take. Because you must realize that the capacities have been created, but we were not utilizing the equipment. And now we'll be utilizing the equipment fully.
Sure, got it.
There would still be some capacities available, but of course, there would be some investment as far as machining is concerned that would be required later on. But at the moment, all the investments are in place. We don't have to do anything at the moment to touch 350 crores.
Got it. And lastly, on the 1,600 or 1,700 crores of new order wins, most of it will be coming in from FY23. So FY22, this 25% growth that we are anticipating is just the organic growth, and also because last year Q1 was a complete washout, and hence probably this 25% growth that you're building in.
Yeah.
16,900.
One quarter is of course the add-on this year, because last year we actually worked for 3 quarters, and 1 quarter is an add-on that will happen, so that is 25% growth in any case. If I regard 25% as the turnover in 1 quarter. The balance of course is the new orders which are there, and for which the investments have already been made.
No, so you are the growth that you are looking for FY22 is just 25%, right?
No, we look at 25% plus another 25%.
Yes, almost. So roughly about 2,000 plus crores of.
We are adding a quarter.
Right.
And then we are saying we are going to grow by another 20-25%.
Okay, so that is roughly about 2,200 odd crores of revenues that you're looking at, depending on whatever visibility you have on these orders.
Very close to your guesswork is pretty close.
Got it. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Thanks a lot, Abhi.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question.
Before the next question, I can just talk a little about the hybrid vehicles. We personally think hybrid is the way forward, and Toyota has always spoken about the hybrid vehicles, and they feel that the first thing that would happen is till of course the battery charging places are available very, very easily all over the country, and very conveniently available. And till I think the vehicle can cross almost about 800 to 1,000 kilometers in one charging. Till then, I think there is, because in India you have a traffic jam over 2-3 hours, and if your car is standing for 2-3 hours, I think you're going to consume a lot of battery. And so what happens once the traffic starts? There might be a total, you might not be able to move at all. Your battery might totally discharge. So everybody feels that hybrid vehicle would come in first. So hybrid vehicle, how it works is it works on the engine as well as the battery. The engine is charging the battery, and or it's running the car on the engine. The battery for the first 40 kilometers, speed of 40 kilometers an hour, it's the battery which operates. It's a very silent operation. Then the engine takes over. The next step would be plug-in hybrids, where you can actually charge the batteries, run on battery the whole day. In case you run short of battery, then the engine will take over. So that would be the next step that will come in. And along with it, till there is more maturity as far as the electric vehicles are concerned, the battery vehicles are concerned. Yeah, please.
Thank you. Participants, you may press star and 1 to ask the question. The next question is from the line of Bhaskar Reddy, a retail investor. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. This is Bhaskar Datla. Just a quick one, sir. From now onwards, do you think we can expect some kind of regular profits above 15 crores mark? I can see the revenue actually improving quarter on quarter quite a lot compared to previous years. But in terms of the profit, do you think we can expect above 15 crores kind of thing for each quarter going forward, or it's going to be still in around 10 only?
No, is your question that do we expect 15 crore profit, net profit, quarter?
For each quarter. Yeah, that's right, sir.
We hope to do much better than that now. Because please understand that we've been making a lot of investments in the last couple of years, and now all those investments are actually in play, and the turnover jump you see is huge, and it would be a major increase that we would go for this year. And so we would be sweating all the assets that we have at the moment. And so hopefully we'll be much better than this. Unless COVID hits us again and there's a third wave and everything shuts down, then of course we don't know. And hopefully they will not shut the industry. And by not shutting the industry, the only advantage we have is that our exports will carry on, but the domestic market comes to a halt because all the shops and the selling points, selling areas get closed. That becomes a disadvantage. So let's hope that people behave and the third wave does not come. And if at all it comes, people are vaccinated by then, and the impact is not so much, and then there are no closures. If that happens, then of course it's an extreme situation. Otherwise, last year also we would have done much better, but the first quarter, which was a washout, but all the costs we had to incur in any case.
Okay, sir. One last question from my side. Last year we had issues with exporting. We had some cost incurred about 30 crores. So that is done, sir?
No, okay. You're talking of the premium freights and...
yes, sir. Premium freights, that's right.
Yes. We do have premium freights this year also, but that is not because of short supply from our side. What has happened is earlier, I'm sure you people must be also reading in the papers that there's a shortage of containers, and the shipping costs have gone up drastically, almost 5 times. And so what has happened is that earlier, for Europe and for the US, it used to take about 4 weeks of sailing. And so we used to keep 4 weeks of stock there, and in the US and also in Germany, in Europe. And what has happened is that 4 weeks has turned into 7 to 8 weeks now. And plus the availability of containers is not there. In case we want to, we ship almost 2-3 containers every day. And shipping those containers, there's always a shortfall. It will be delayed by 3 days or 5 days or 10 days, and the cost has gone up. That is what has happened. Now, to cover up those extra 4 weeks of sea time, we have used premium freights to ship. But we made a lot of changes there. The cost, the overall that we expect for this year is about close to about 10 crores in the whole year. But I wouldn't call it premium. This is actually meeting the requirements of the customer just to get the goods there, for which we are asking the customer to pay for, because it is not our fault that the containers are delayed.
Okay, sorry. I think that's a lot better than 30 crores if it is only around 10 crores.
No, that is over. That is history. But that also happened last year, last year. Primarily, last year, the COVID times, we had a lot of shortage of labor. We had to keep the lines running for our customers. So we did employ a lot of fresh people, untrained people who we tried to train. But there were a lot of problems that we incurred as far as the components are concerned. It's behind us now.
Okay. So now you think the workforce is also now stable, like number of employees that are going to be?
Yeah, workforce stable. We did overemploy also, to be honest, and so that in case people go away with another wave, then we would have enough people with us.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Thank you, sir. That's it.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you may press star and 1 to ask the question. The next question is from the line of Jaimin Desai from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity again. Sir, could you provide us the geographical breakup of revenues in FY21, and also who would be your top 5 clients and what would be the share of business with these people?
When you say geographical, you would mean globally, or you want it only for India? India is India, or you want a breakup for India as well?
No, I mean in terms of exports, which would be your major markets?
Okay. Major markets are Europe and US. America. And that's Germany, France, and US. And then, of course, we are exporting to Japan, we are exporting to China, we are Thailand and other places, but those are very small numbers. It's primarily Germany, France, and then Volvo in Sweden, and Europe and
sure. And your top clients?
Top clients are BMW and GKN. And PSA, 3, yeah. I'm talking only exports, please. And then Renault, but Renault is, earlier we were exporting directly to Renault plants all over the world. But now Renault, they've got a collection center here. They consolidate all the material here and then send. So that we don't regard as exports. That is, now it is domestic market. But it is all meant for exports as components. After about a year, PSA is also planning to do the same thing, that they would consolidate in India and then pick up the material from here.
Okay. And finally, on the housekeeping question, what is the normalized tax rate that we should assume going forward, because the tax rate has been pretty volatile in the past 3 or 4 quarters? Hello? Hello?
Sir, one moment.
Hello?
We are discussing, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, give me a prediction of that. Whatever we've done now, we'll be doubling that in any case. So we'll be in the region of about 4 to 5%. That's what the figure would be.
4 to 5% of sales.
Yeah. Yeah, you must realize that we were incurring a lot of interest on investments that have been done, which are not being flogged. Now this year we have the opportunity of flogging everything. You will see a major change that will come, but we will see every quarter wise. Of course, this first quarter again there is a slight impact, but there is an impact, but not a major impact. But we'll cover up.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. A reminder to all the participants, you may press star and 1 to ask the question. The next question is from the line of Rahul Singh from IndusInd Bank. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. Hello?
Sir.
Go ahead, sir. You're audible.
Yes, sir. Sir, my question is, in the last quarter, your comparing the third quarter to fourth quarter, your sales have increased, but your EBITDA has actually declined. So I want to know what is the reason for that from quarter 3 to quarter 4 on EBITDA level.
लेकिन हमारे slightly up 9.5% से 9.8%.
Rahul, may I request you to mute your line from your side?
9.5% to 9.8%. And but otherwise, this would have been even better in case because there was the raw material price increase in the month of quarter was very heavy, and so that impact we'll get next month. But and the other thing is that we did, like I mentioned earlier, that we have finally closed Dharuhera, which was a pain for all the investors earlier. They would ask us this question: when are we going to shut down Dharuhera? And the final cost, whatever required to shut down Dharuhera, that has also been done and dusted, and so that has also shown it. But still, the EBITDA level has gone up.
Okay. And my next question is, what is the quarter-on-quarter freight expense for the last financial year? Increase or in? Yeah, freight expense. It has increased or it is in the same line on quarter-on-quarter?
The air freight has decreased drastically, and this is the premium freight I'm talking of. They have decreased drastically. The sea freight has gone up, and but we are reorganizing everything, and hopefully the target that we've taken internally is, despite the freight rate going up by 4 times to 5 times, and we are targeting that the impact should not be more than 1.5 to 2 times of the total freight cost of last year. And how we're going to do it is, we've changed repackaging. You must understand that bulk of our export is aluminum components, and aluminum components, when we stuff in the container, we can't stuff more than 10 tons or 12 tons of material. So what we are doing is we are also exporting iron components, and iron components we can barely fill half the container, and the container is by weight it is about 22, 23 tons. So what we are doing is we have started mixing up the iron and aluminum in a 40-ton container where we can ship about 28 tons. And with this, we'll reach the ultimate weight and also be able to carry a lot of aluminum components at almost free of price. So all that these combinations are taking place. Then repackaging of all the components. Earlier, if we were packing, say, in one box, say 600 components, we are trying to see how we can take it to 900 components. So all these combinations are working out, and hopefully it should not be more than 1.5 times. That would be the maximum that we would be touching.
Okay.
Despite the freight increase of 5 times. That's
okay.
And this would be permanent for us. This saving would be permanent for us because the freights are not sustainable at the level that the shipping companies are charging at the moment. They'll come down, and that benefit obviously will come to the company then. Then ultimately, the money that would be spending on freight would be lesser than the money that we spent last year.
Okay, thank you from my side.
Thank you very much.
Now this was a guesstimate, and because there's a lot of work going on this, there's a separate task force which is on this, and they've already started work. They've already started implementing this, and but that's the target we have given them, and we are very confident we will achieve it.
Thank you very much. The next question is from the line.
Please also understand that our export is going up by almost 30% this year, and that freight also goes up, but we are going to try to keep it there.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to the next participant. The next question is from the line of Chandra Govind from Ashmore Group. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Good evening. So one question that I had was on Dharuhera plant closure cost. What was the cost that we incurred in 4Q21, which will not repeat going ahead? Hello?
It was about 2.5 crores that we incurred this quarter. 2.5 to 3
Okay.
crores. Yeah.
So the extraordinary expense of 1.7 crore, does this include that 2.5 crore?
Yeah.
Or is it-
Yeah.
So the EBITDA line will include 80 crore extra expenses for Dharuhera plant.
Yeah.
Okay. And second question that I had was on the raw material cost. You said few customers do, consider 3 months average, few customers do take 6 months average. And you also said out of 40-50 crore that you spent on raw material, only 17 crore been collected. So when do you see the raw material cost expenses to normalize, or will you have benefit for the next year because you collect the remaining amount?
See, the remaining is 17 crores, which should get adjusted. The remaining I said was 17 crores out of the 40 to 45 crores.
Remaining was 17 crores.
Yeah. So that is one. And number two, normally what we see is that over the year, the raw material prices fluctuate between 5 to 7% to 10% maximum. This year it was exceptional. It went up by 40%. And it kept on going up. Normally it goes up and down, the graph goes up and down. So adjustment uski hoti rehti hai. By the end of the year, there's not too much minus that is left behind. But this year has been an exception, and we are also looking at how to make a change so that in future this does not affect. Now the problem is that they are prepared to make a change today. If they make a change today, then we would probably lose a lot of money for the advantage that we want to take when the prices come down of commodities. So we are not agreeing to a change today. We will agree to a change to bring it down to a month and a half, or maximum 2 months, when we have recovered the 17-18 crores that we have actually put in. And we are hoping that this year there will not be a major fluctuation as far as the raw materials are concerned.
Okay. Got it. And on the CapEx side, what kind of CapEx that you are looking for FY22?
The normal CapEx that we normally have is about 50 crores. That's the maintenance CapEx and other some balancing and some like Maruti orders have come. We have the Maruti orders. The volumes have gone up, and for that some equipment would need to come in. But for Toyota, there's a separate CapEx. Total would be spread over 2 years, and partly this year and partly next year. And it's about 65 to 70 crores this year, and balance would be next year.
Okay. But how much would be the balance? 65 to 70?
Beg your pardon?
So 65 to 70 crores for this year, and what would be the for FY23, the balance Toyota expenditure?
That would be another about 45 to 50 crores.
45 to 50 crores. So the
But let me add here that 45 to 50 crores that we are talking of, that is also again we are talking of very large die casting machines. Each machine would machine cost is about 24 crores, and but installed machine is about almost 35 crores. And we already have about 4 of them. We are adding 2 more machines. And these machines would also be used for further products of Toyota, which are again large products that are coming up for the electric vehicles and also hybrid vehicles. And we would also be making components for that. And that investment will be taking, that turnover we have not taken at all in consideration even now, and also in the turnover that is going to happen this year.
Okay. And all this guidance doesn't include dies.
No, dies. See, dies, since the customer pays, they come into our books, but the customer actually advances us for dies.
Right.
So for the first 2 sets of dies, the third die is what we start investing in, which gets amortized over the life of the die.
Okay. Got it, sir. Thank you.
And there would be jigs and fixtures as well. Anything
Yes.
specific for a component which we can't use for another customer, we always request the customer to pay for.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. A reminder to all the participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. A reminder to all the participants, you may press star and 1 to ask a question. As there are no further questions, I will now hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
Well, thank you so much. And once again, I'd like to thank everybody who took out time to participate in the meeting today. And we have been promising for many quarters that you'll see a better performance. But at this time, we've actually, the top line growth is pretty good. And despite one quarter missing, we were able to increase our turnover more than previous year's turnover. And this year again, we expect a major jump in turnover, and that will also, you'll also see a major impact coming on in the bottom line as well. And there are a lot of cost-saving measures and etc. that we have actually undertaken. A lot of trainings, etc. that are actually happening, and you see those results coming. Every quarter, you see some changes in coming about in that. Thank you so much once again. Stay safe, stay healthy. Please get yourself inoculated, and all the best.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Ascension Technologies Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us. You may now disconnect your lines. Thank you.
Thank you.